Welcome back. Devices, technology, and the dawn of social media platforms and apps have changed really the way we connect and even the way we communicate. But when the relationship with social turns toxic, lives are literally being destroyed.
That's right. They can destroy lives. And from parents to teachers and mental health experts, the search to find a healthy balance with social media continues. But as NBC6 anchor Roxanne Vargas shows us, one 19-year-old couldn't control the need to keep logging on.
Social media. Scroll, swipe, tap, save, forward, laugh, cry, connect. The social media experience taps all of our senses with an endless opportunity to share with friends, loved ones, the world. But it can also open the door to empty promises, a lack of likes, bullying, perceptions of reality. And studies show our brains are feeling that impact.
It's really about a preoccupation with and compulsive use of social media.
SMA, social media addiction, an uncontrollable urge to log on and log out of the basics of life.
We're talking about excessive isolation. We're talking about lack of engagement, real social engagement with real people in live time. We're talking about abandoning activities that people used to derive pleasure from. We're talking about a disruption in the capacity to stay attuned.
It started when she was probably about 7 or 8. She was using a tablet.
Many of them say that they can't get off it.
The U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy sounding the alarm on the link between social media's potential impacts on adolescents and teens on mental health, calling on Congress to put warning labels on social, much like cigarettes and alcohol.
Think about the constant need to check and update one's social media platform, obsessively, compulsively. And the key element here, in order for it to reach the level of disorder that brings me to this conversation, is that it has to result in some impairment in function and typically a disruption in real world relationships.
Meet Jimena. She's 19 with family roots in Spain, grew up in Chicago. And like many other kids or adolescents you might know, Jimena says she got connected with a cell phone at 13, access to social media at 15. A new world of entertainment and immediate gratification, Jimena tells us, right at her fingertips.
When did your relationship with social media or technology, when did that start?
Well, I've been starting using my phone since 2018, but it got worse in 2020.
And when you say it got worse, what do you mean? What happened?
All of the things that I'm working in Sologoria, such as relationships, hygiene, taking care of myself emotionally and mentally, like emotional and mentally, and relationships, and even spiritually.
Regular rituals that Jimena tells me slowly stopped as she lost herself in Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp. Tomorrow, we'll share with you part 2 of Jimena's story, her journey at a rehab facility where she is learning to navigate and create a healthy relationship with technology and social media. Roxanne Vargas, NBC6 News.
Hey, we continue our series on social media addiction, a big problem. Yesterday, we introduced you to 19-year-old Jimena, who told us she spends 20 hours a day, yes, 20 hours a day, logged onto her device.
And obviously that's been problematic. And NBC6 anchor Roxanne Vargas brings you the next part of her story on how she's learning how to have a healthy and balanced relationship with social media.
Did you notice that there was starting to be a change in you with social media, that you started to see a disconnect with loved ones, a disconnect with yourself? Did you notice the change happening?
Yes. The last months at my house, before coming here, I noticed how every single person that I was close to, I don't know, I didn't have a really relationship with those loved ones.
That's Jimena's mother, Inez, who says her daughter is fun and funny, loves dance and fashion. But she says Jimena became addicted to her device, connected for 20 hours a day.
Were you sleeping?
Not really. I mean, during the day, but it's just like I didn't have a schedule. I didn't have like a routine. So I would spend my whole night on the phone and on the device, and then sleep between hours now and then during the day.
Grooming, like taking care of yourself. Was that stuff that kind of
No.
giving a priority?
A mother's cry for help, and she found it here on a 200-acre campus in Utah called Solegria, a rehab program for adults and teens who want to be independent but just aren't ready yet.
We believe that addiction, it's not just a matter of like taking something away, because they're eventually going to come back into the real world and come back into life and want to get back into those things. However, our approach to addiction and how to help these individuals is that we got to replace it with stuff.
Replaces it with outdoor activities, sports, responsibilities like making a bed, regain a healthy routine. A study just released by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services says up to 95% of teens between 13 and 17 say they use a social media platform, and a third say they are engaged constantly. A similar study in 2019 says teens who are scrolling more than 3 hours a day face double the risk of developing depression and anxiety.
Doctor, what actually happens to your brain?
And similar to a slot machine where there's this rush from a reward, there's also an intermittent lack of reward. So if you're talking about social media engagement where you're on your platform, you post something, you get a like, you get 5 likes, you see that climb up, and then there's a pause, right? People stop being attuned to what you post, their attention shifts to something else, and then you begin to anticipate when others will re-engage with your platform and get more likes.
What is it that you got out of social media that would make you want to keep going back to that?
Just the entertainment, the disconnection of everything.
Jimena tells me she's seemingly disconnected from the real world, immersing into this one. Jimena has been at this facility for 1.5 years now, learning to look up, let go, and in Jimena's case, learn to disconnect and reconnect with a healthy relationship with technology and social media.
So where are you now in your journey? How are you doing there at Solegria?
I'm improving. I'm doing this for my own good, and I still have troubles and challenges, but I'm still going.
Jimena tells me that she's doing well. She's working at Solegria, studying to get her driver's license, and she hopes to become a therapist so that she herself can help others in the future. I asked Jimena how long she expects to be there at the facility, and she says she's not sure. She doesn't want to rush her recovery. I asked Jimena if she has her cell phone with her while she's there, and she says she does, as she continues to work at a new, healthy relationship with her device and with social media. Tomorrow here on NBC6, I will introduce you to Selena and how her mother wants you to remember her daughter, because the worst case scenario happened. She died by suicide. Her mother and the change she is asking for tomorrow here on NBC6. Roxanne Vargas, NBC6 News. Addiction. You might think drugs, alcohol, gambling, social media.
Part of it has to do with recognizing that addiction is a brain disease. It's a chronic, progressive, potentially fatal disease process that is manageable.
But when it's not manageable,
It's been 2.5 years. July will be 3 years. And, you know, it's hard. It's very hard.
This week, we're talking about social media addiction. Today, one mother wants to share her daughter's dark story in the hope of bringing light to others. NBC6 anchor Roxanne Vargas has more.
Every day is something different. You don't know where your emotions will be, you know, what can trigger.
Tammy Rodriguez says her daughter Selena was spirited. She shined on stage dancing. She said she would light up a room.
The emotions, the grief is very hard.
Tammy says Selena's relationship with technology started around 7, watching videos on a tablet.
As she got a little older, I ended up getting her a phone. And when, on there, again, in the beginning, everything was just the games and videos. But then you could start seeing a change. Once she started posting them, I started, slowly over time, seeing her change and seeing her really start questioning herself. Her self-confidence was dwindling. She was changing. Everything about her was changing.
Tammy says Selena became violent, attacking her little sister and her when a phone was taken away.
She wasn't sleeping hardly at all. She wasn't eating. She had become, she was developing an eating disorder. Really, just everything in her world just depended on those devices. She didn't want to go anywhere unless she could bring it with her.
Though Tammy says she had access to Selena's accounts, she kept discovering hidden ones. Selena would wake up with multiple devices.
The last 2 months of her life were complete chaos. I have no other way that I can really put it. She wasn't the Selena that we knew. She really wanted that attention at all times, whether it was positive or negative. She thrived on that attention.
They learned Selena was being bullied. Photos leaked to other students that Selena had sent via Snapchat. Then one morning, Tammy noticed Selena's mood swings were particularly rough. Tammy reached out around noon to Selena. Nothing. She checked in with Selena later. No response.
Horrific. It's just something that you just never imagine can possibly happen in your world.
Selena tragically died by suicide, July 2021. She was 11.
We found out that she was actually being contacted by men, adult men, that were then getting pictures from her and exploiting her. And I had no idea that that was going on. And that's what I think was even bigger than the bullying piece of it.
Tomorrow, Selena's mother, Tammy, takes her plight to the floor of Congress, calling for change and calling for action that she wants to see. That's tomorrow here on NBC6. If you or someone you know are struggling with thoughts of suicide, you can always call or text the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988 24/7 for help. Roxanne Vargas, NBC6 News.
Continue our series on social media addiction in children. Yesterday, we introduced you to an 11-year-old girl, Selena, who tragically died by suicide.
Yeah, and NBC6 anchor Roxanne Vargas shows us how the preteen's mother is fighting for change.
Selena, just one of too many kids hooked on social media. The National Institute of Health reports 24% of adolescents say they are constantly connected, and half say they are addicted.
How dark can this go?
It can go extremely dark. I mean, it's not hyperbolic to compare this to any other substance use disorder where you have a beginning, which is seemingly somewhat innocuous. You're engaged with it. There's some reward. It doesn't seem particularly risky. On the other end of the spectrum, being terrorized or bullied by somebody who doesn't like what you posted. So both of those experiences can lead to a number of mental health symptoms and certainly a mental health crisis, up to and including, unfortunately, suicide.
U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy calling on Congress to mandate warning labels on social media platforms, saying it could harm a teen's mental health.
Mr. Zuckerberg, you and the companies before us, I know you don't mean it to be so, but you have blood on your hands.
Tammy stood side by side with other parents who shared her pain on the floor of Congress and before the founders of social media platforms, demanding accountability. The Rodriguez family sued the companies Meta and Snap. The lawsuit alleges that Meta invests millions of dollars in consciously designing addictive, unsafe, and harmful social networks for the health of children and adolescents. In response to this lawsuit, Meta responded to us, writing in part, quote, "We want to assure every parent that we take their interests seriously in our work to help teenagers have a safe online experience." And for Snap, a spokesperson responded to us saying in part, quote, "While we cannot comment on any specifics of this ongoing litigation, nothing is more important to us than the well-being of our community."
This is why we invested so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts.
It was a horrible apology, or I say apology because that wasn't an apology to me. I had my one moment where I was able to lock eyes with him and I held her picture up. You know, I don't know if it matters to him, but it mattered to me to hold her picture there and show him who we lost because of their product.
Governor Ron DeSantis recently signing a law prohibiting minors under 14 from having access to these platforms. But the question is, how is that enforced?
We shouldn't be losing kids that are 8, 9, 10 years old. I mean, shouldn't be losing any kids, but they're getting younger and younger.
Dr. Adam tells me that the reason adolescents and teens are so vulnerable is basic science. Our brains are developing until 20 or 25 in some cases. It's a process called pruning. Social media addiction or substance abuse addiction can interrupt that important development. Some solutions, he says, limited screen time, screen-free zones like at the dinner table, and looking out for red flags like isolation, change of mood, lack of sleep. If you or someone you know are struggling with thoughts of suicide, you can always call or text the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988 24/7 for help. Roxanne Vargas, NBC6 News.